Hey everybody, welcome to another Industry Night with me, Nycci Nellis, the show that takes you on the deep dive of the happenings in the hospitality industry. So if you're new here, hi, and if you're old here, hi as well. A little bit about me and why you're tuning in. I've been covering the DC food, wine, and hospitality scene for the last 20 years. If you don't get, you should get the list areyouonit.com, the online e-zine that tells you absolutely everything that's happening in the DC metro area. Food events, wine tastings, dinners, you name it. Of course, every restaurant that's opening and a tracker of every restaurant that's opening soon. Also, every promotion. So there's a lot going on there. You should check it out. You tune in every Sunday to 1500 to Foodie and the Beast, the only food and wine variety show in the DMV. Just about to be on air for 16 years, which is pretty wild and exciting. And then Industry Night. Here we are. I'm at the gorgeous, gorgeous new facility that I'm going to get to in just a second because it's my newest residency. Oh, and if you want to know everything I'm doing, you want to follow me at NYCCINELLIS on all the platforms because I am doing a lot. So, did you miss me? You probably didn't because I come to your inbox like all the time with all the things. But your girl here was out of town for a couple weeks. I specifically went to Chicago for the James Beard Awards. I love it. If you haven't been, I highly recommend it. It's so incredible and it's so hard to put into words how special it is to be out there with all these important creatives who are really changing the food space right now. I mean, there's so much going on that's so different, and it's so exciting to be a part of it. So I did hit the Media Awards, which is a little loving hands and home compared to the big show, the Chef Awards, but it's really cozy and it's really intimate. And what I love about it is I feel that I'm like a pretty well-read person, especially in the food space. There are so many shows, there are so many essays, there are so many books, there are so many people that I am missing. And when you go to those awards, you really learn about them and you get to hear their stories. And there's not a dry eye in the place because some of these stories are so powerful and impactful. And it's really at these awards that you get to see that. So that's always fun. And then, so the James Beard weekend is a Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So Sunday, there's actually no awards, but oh my God, there's so many events. So there's like 20 like on the record events and maybe like another 20 definitely not on the record events. And you kind of want to hit all of them, but you have to be judicious and pick like where you want to go. So like there was this fabulous brunch at Nobu that everybody was hitting. I went to the AAPI panel, which was incredible. Susan Bay and Masako Morishita were talking about being women Asian chefs and what that was like right now, and that was fantastic. There was a huge party afterwards. And then I wound up actually at the Violet Hour because there was a whole story about bees and distilling, which was also really cool. So the awards. So, I mean, the awards themselves are exciting, but I'm going to put myself into it because your girl here gets hired by Hilton and I get to MC the red carpet. It's my second year doing it. Hair and makeup at 11, have to be on the red carpet at 3:15, and literally at 3:16, it all starts. So I was interviewing Ruth Reichel, which is like a dream, Marcus Samuelson, Richard Blaze, Rick Bayless, who is the best interview ever, and of course all the nominees and all the judges, all the people who make what's happening at the James Beard Awards so important. And it's such an honor to be there doing that. And I'm so grateful that Hilton invites me every year to do it and makes it so much fun. There'll be a lot of fodder of that on Instagram, so you should check that out. Before the big show, you have to grab snacks because it's like over 3 hours. And trust me, you get really hungry when you're in there. Consider that a pro tip and you're welcome. And DC totally represented at the awards this year. And a lot of people complain that DC did not represent enough, but you have to remember, it is a national awards. So there are so many fabulous people in the food space who are doing incredible, incredible things. Everybody has an incredible narrative, and there's a lot of tough competition. So our girl Masako Morishita at Perry's, she won for Best Emerging Chef, which is so exciting and she so deserves it. And if you haven't been there, good luck getting in now because you're going to need a reservation. Mike Graffiti, also a good friend. Albi and Yellow. He won for Outstanding Chef, which I have to be honest, I didn't see coming because Rob Ruba won the same award last year. So that's a twofer for DC, which is incredible. And then Mid-Atlantic went to Harley Pete, who is the chef de Baz Rouge out in Easton. And again, if you follow my socials, you know I was just out there and did the whole Easton tour because Paul Prager is like buying it all up and is basically Harley's benefactor, and they are doing amazing things out there. So you do want to check out, that's in my highlights on Instagram. But so Easton is not DC, but we're going to call it DC adjacent. So I feel like we did really, really well. There was a fantastic party afterwards. And I do want to make it clear, I just didn't do James Beard. I was in Chicago, and Chicago is a fantastic city. Lots of amazing walking. I did like 10 miles one day doing the river walk, the lake, and just like walking through all the fabulous neighborhoods. I have 2 restaurants that if you go or when you go, you should totally hit. The first was the Middle Eastern / Israeli Galit, which is sort of like a Laser Wolf, if you've done that in Brooklyn or in Philly, Salmanov's restaurant. But they're doing their own take on it. The food is gorgeous, but it's the wine list that needs your attention. And I feel like I'm sort of segueing unintentionally into why I'm here. The wine list was amazing. Also, we ate at the Croatian Rosemary. I know people are like Croatian, but Croatia is on the same lines as Italy. So killer wines and amazing food. So it was a pasta and morels that was terrific. So since I'm talking wines, I'm going to sort of talk about where I am. So you can see I'm no longer at the Capitol Jewish Museum, which was a delight and a fantastic residency. But I am in Delaplane, Virginia. I'm in the Piedmont region in Virginia, which could sound like Italy, but I'm in Virginia, no complaints. And we're just east of the Blue Ridge Mountains, and I am at Barrel Oak Winery and Brewery, but we're going to get to the brewery later. This 30-acre vineyard is plants traditional vines and American French vines, Chardonnay, Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Petit Manseng, 10 grape varieties in total, and actually the Norton, which I also want to talk about because that's the Virginia grape now, but for a long time, Virginia was pushing Viognier, so we're going to talk about that later. So I'm so grateful to the team here for inviting us to be here for the next 4 episodes. Adriana Luca was generous enough to work with me on this. So I just want to say wine in Virginia can be traced back like a really long time, like to the first settlers. Think about Thomas Jefferson, right? But it really wasn't until the late 1970s, when the industry began to sort of really take root here. And like I remember when I first moved down to the DC area in the early 90s, going to Virginia wine festivals, and like there were lots of vineyards, but the wine just wasn't there yet, and it was kind of dismissed. Virginia was dismissed for quite some time, but the last 30 years has changed things so dramatically. There's an explosion of not just quality, but also quantity. I think there's now over 300 wineries here in the Virginia region that grows wine, and the winemakers and wine lovers alike are all reaping the rewards from the fruits of that labor. So we're talking Virginia wine. The winemaker here at Barrel and Oak is Jeremy Ligon. Yes. I want to say Leon. I want to make you French. Ligon. You were on Foodie and the Beast recently,
yes.
And when we talked about me doing industry night here at the property, I was like, I wanted to get a panel together of Virginia winemakers, and just to really talk about the trajectory of Virginia wine and how it's changed so much. And to say that you understood the assignment is like an understatement, because you brought me Jason Murray, who is the owner and winemaker at Arterra Wines.
Yes.
And I'm very excited to talk to him. And also Karim Baki, who is the wine grower and owner at Hillsborough Vineyards. Yes. So we're going to have a really interesting panel. But before I bring those two gentlemen up, I wanted to sort of start with you, because it's your place and you're hosting. So tell us a little bit about, first of all, I feel like you're just standing there with that beautiful bottle of wine, but you're not doing anything with it. So tell me a little bit about Barrel Oak.
Sure, and I mean, I'll start off just about this wine.
Okay, good. Let's start with this.
This is our 2022 Sauvignon Blanc, which we make this in a New Zealand style. So it's light, it's crisp, it's got some nice papaya, You get some good minerality there as well. And Sauvignon Blanc really grows great for us in Virginia. But it's one that you got to stay on top of all the time, which is like most of the vineyards in Virginia because we're dealing with humidity and all that fun stuff. But this one definitely always susceptible. So you want to make sure that you're in there, you're thinning it out, and you're taking care of it. And honestly, when I came back from California to Virginia and had some of my first Sauvignon Blanc in Virginia, I was blown away at the quality. So this is one that I do love making every year.
I would have to say, I mean, we could go down several rabbit holes immediately because I would love to talk about what New Zealand style means to you, and especially coming from California where Sauvignon Blanc is so specific, right, in its texture and flavor and how it's delivered. I'm very curious about how Virginia is doing that differently or how you're doing it differently. So could we just talk a little bit about how you wound up here,
Sure, yeah.
how you wound up the winemaker, and you have all these different grapes, like how you're managing a vineyard of this size.
Right. Well, so when this opportunity popped up in 2021, I was very drawn to it because I know this site and I know we could produce really amazing grapes and amazing wines off of this site. So that was something that really drew me in to have beautiful grapes right here on the property to manage. And a lot of wineries in Virginia that are small, when you come on as a winemaker, you do a little bit of everything. And here, we're actually making enough wine and we're growing enough vineyards that I can concentrate on what I love and my passion, which is growing grapes and making wine. When I was 14, my family started a vineyard in Southern Virginia, and they made me work on it, which I kind of joke with the customers about. But that's really what got me going into this. And actually, it goes a little bit full circle because Jason, who you'll talk to soon, was the consultant for my family's vineyard when I was 14. And so he really kind of helped me along in the vineyard with learning how to grow amazing grapes in Virginia. And so that led me to Fresno State. When I was in school, Fresno State and UC Davis were the only two campuses in the United States that had a stellar enology program. And with Fresno State having a 100-acre vineyard and a beautiful winery on campus, it was the place to go to be a winemaker. So I had my degree in enology there and chemistry, and I came back to Virginia in 2012.
Can I interrupt for a second? So in the courses you were taking there, I'm just sort of curious, is the focus more on the juice or the farming? Like, is it teaching both? Because it's really an agricultural product. You can't have a good product in the glass if you don't have a good product growing out of the ground.
Exactly. And it crosses over. So they have a viticulture degree that's only focuses mostly on vineyard. And then they have the enology degree that focuses mostly on wine, but they both cross over. And so they both require that you take classes in viticulture or winemaking as well. And everybody wants to be a winemaker. So my first class, you can't even sit. There's not even a place to sit, right?
Oh, because it sounds like an easy class.
Sounds fun, right? I'm going to make wine and taste wine all day.
Right.
And then in my graduating class, there were 6 people. And so they basically put you through the same curriculum science-wise as pre-med. So it's all these people that are going to be doctors and like 6 winemakers in the back, like, okay, when are we getting out of here? This is a crazy hard class, but it's nice because it weeds the people out that aren't really in it to be there for the long run.
So when you moved back here, what was it about this area, the grapes that they had, the vines that they're using? Because you're working with a product that was already in place because the vineyard is, how old's the vineyard, 30
years? This vineyard here is about 12 years old
12
now.
Years old, okay.
But when I came back, I didn't come back here. I came back to a smaller vineyard. But in 2015, I was named the #1 up-and-coming winemaker in Virginia.
Oh, look at you.
Keep your eye on. And moved around and bounced around and came here in 2021 and really didn't want to lose an opportunity to be in this area. This is, it's a hidden gem, really, in Virginia. Everybody talks about Monticello and Charlottesville, but this area you can really produce some of the best wines.
So this area, this is Fauquier County.
We're in Fauquier County. We're in the Middleburg AVA, so it's known as an outstanding American viticulture area. And we're Barrel Oak specifically located in between RDV, which is making some amazing wines, and Linden,
and didn't they just
make some amazing wines.
I was going to ask later in the show about RDV, because they just sold.
I know they just, that was kind of made everybody's head spin in the wine
Right?
industry in Virginia.
It did.
They did catch us by surprise. But
Right, because Rucker was so committed.
that was his baby.
And
Yeah, I'm sure
Josh
it
and all of
was.
them.
Yeah.
I have so many questions, but
I know, me
that's
too.
another show.
Me too.
Okay.
That's a whole show there for sure. But with the folks that bought RDV are so into quality that I think it shows a testament to the quality we're doing in Virginia, and I think you'll see a lot more notoriety around the world for what we're doing as we're gaining more success,
More
and
attention.
making really nice wines.
Well, so here, let's talk about your wines and the kind of wines you're producing. You mentioned that this one is in a New Zealand style. What
Sure.
does that mean to you? I know what it means.
Yeah.
I know what I think it means.
Sure.
Because I think when I think of New Zealand whites, I think of like a real sort of chalky minerality,
Sure.
lots of lemon, right? Sometimes there's like a tang.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Is that what you're looking for?
For us, we get a little, especially in Virginia, it's geared a little more towards passion fruit. But we definitely get some of that papaya, and we get some of that minerality as well. But what we're not steering it towards is your California kind of cat pee Sauvignon Blanc, right? Like
Cat pee?
yeah, no, we don't do that. And so
Wait, no, I'm sorry,
we're the
dude. You
complete
can't just
opposite.
leave it at cat pee. What does that mean?
So that's those are more of those heavier Sauv Blancs, the West Coast Sauv Blancs that you see. And that's usually the only time you'll see that descriptor is with a West Coast Sauv Blanc. And
What does it mean? It tastes like cat pee? Who's
usually-
drinking cat pee?
Well,
You're laughing. I'm serious.
Well, there's people would like some interesting wines, and I think some people like to look for weird stuff, and then I think those are the people that like that style of wine. But I think you see
Okay,
that
you have
more
so lost me. I don't even know.
in
I know words are
California.
coming out of your mouth, but I don't understand what you're saying. But okay, but now here, how many varieties are you serving up right now?
Right now, we're doing about 15 different wines that we do.
Wow.
We do some varietals, and we also do some blends.
What's your preference? What do you like best?
It depends on what time of year it is. This time of year it's hot. I like a nice crisp rosé. I like a Sauvignon Blanc. I like a Seyval Blanc.
No. I mean, what do you like doing? Do you like to mix it up, or do you like it pure?
I like to keep it pretty pure.
Okay.
But we do a few blends as well. And
But that's what I mean. Do you like to play with it? Like, do you like being a mad scientist and like tasting different grapes and being like, oh, I can make this kind of juice and put it together?
to some extent, yeah, we to some extent like to do some experimenting, but I also have a way of saying, hey, this Sauvignon Blanc, let's make the best Sauvignon Blanc we can and not screw with it. So I wouldn't put this in a barrel personally. I would keep it stainless steel because that's what I want to see Sauvignon Blanc be. And so for me, it's trying to push the grapes to make them better of what we get out of the field, but not really trying to push them to something that they can't be.
Okay. All right. I'm going to bring on the next guest, and then we're going to do a panel in a little bit.
Great.
Okay, great. Okay, so Jason Murray is joining me next. Like I said, the assignment was understood. We have a very interesting panel of winemakers who are joining me today. Arterra Wines, you are the owner, you are the winemaker, you are the viticulturist. You are doing all the things. Can we talk about your background, please, and how you got in the wine biz?
Briefly as possible, I grew up as a farming type kid in agriculture. So I worked
Where?
in Central Maryland,
Okay.
Howard County, Maryland. And just grew up working on farms, ended up in horticulture in college, University of Maryland. So bachelor's and a master's there.
Did you want to go into farming? Like, did you want to be like a goat farmer, or like was there something that you were looking to do, or what were you thinking?
At that point in time, once I was in college, I was in horticulture crops, and the programs there were very focused on greenhouse and nursery production to support kind of residential growth and commercial growth in Maryland. And so it wasn't until after college wrapped up, I was fortunate enough to get a position in Loudoun County, Virginia, as their commercial horticulturist.
Oh.
And that meant I was production assistants for horticulture businesses. So fruits, vegetables, trees, shrubs, greenhouses, all of it. But that was right when the boom was starting for grape growing and winemaking.
So what year is this?
This was 2001.
Okay.
And I was right there at the moment when the expansion started, and my role was to support the industry and the growth of that industry. The fastest growing sector was wine.
And did it just kind of like blow you away? Were you just like, this is cool? Or, I mean, was there something about wine specific that you were like, I need to be a part of this?
It's absolutely captivating because it's a different version of horticulture. So it isn't just how much crop can you grow, how fast at low cost, and you can do that. There are grape and wine models that are that way. Or it can just be how high quality of a product can you produce. And there's everything in between. So it just fascinated me that there was different ways and approaches to it, and that you can express farming as wine.
Right, the byproduct.
Yeah.
So there's one thing in helping others and creating success for others, and then there's starting your own business. What brought you there? And can you tell us about Arterra?
So there was kind of two things came together to establish our own place. So partway through having that job as a production assistant, I started running another person's vineyard and then winery, and established another operation and worked full-time running that operationally 9 or 10 years.
Were you making wines or were you just managing the vines?
Grape growing, winemaking,
Wow.
a lot of the business operation side. So kind of like comprehensively how you run a wine business. And this was simultaneous to my wife, who was an art teacher and curriculum developer in the school systems. When our second son was born, she left the school system and started making vine and wine-themed artwork and selling it at wine festivals.
Oh,
She did that about 5 years and then needed her own permanent location for a studio and gallery. That's when we put the two together. So we operate in one location as Arterra Wines and Hawkmoth Arts.
oh, I love that.
Yeah.
But, so did you have to start scratch with your vines? Were the vines already there?
Two pieces of that. We did have to start with our own vineyard, the land that we purchased. We had to clear that and plant on it and establish and build the building, all of that. But fortunately, I had another vineyard that I was already working with at the time that just transitioned with me to get Arterra started.
Oh.
So we were making wine for Arterra 2 years before we were open, so that we had our wine with grapes that we had been working with for already 10 or 15 years or something.
Wow.
And had that experience going right into it.
So I assume your wife did the design on the bottle.
She has done most everything aesthetic associated with
beautiful.
the business, and there's a really nice piece on the back.
It's gorgeous.
And on the back, it's probably hard to see here, but that is a vine on a precipice, because we have kind of gone on the concept that greatness is achieved at the edge of disaster. So if you push limits, that's where you can find the most amazing things.
I like that. I like that frame of thought.
Yeah.
So tell me about the kind of grapes you're growing.
We're very focused on the right grape in the right place, so what works in Virginia. So Arterra is the art of the land. We're trying to truly express the site, the region, the characteristics here. And being what I consider to be a true terroir winery, we're super minimalist. So the grape has to actually be in perfect balance and captivating every year in a challenging climate in and of itself. And so we've really identified certain whites and certain reds that just naturally flow and don't need adjustments and modifications.
Okay.
So that it really shows what Virginia is, and being ultra minimalist, we consider them to be clean wines because they're not additive or any of that kind of basis.
So are you working in, like when we're talking about clean wines, are we talking natural? Are we talking biodynamic? Are you working in any of those sort of frames when it comes to your wines?
We have a solid piece of the vineyard in organic trial,
I'm
successfully
going to stop you for a
2
second. You have a
years.
mosquito on you. Okay, sorry, go ahead. I don't want you to get bit.
You saved me, thank you.
You're welcome.
There's a couple other
I
things
know.
flying around too.
Okay.
All right, so we are not certified organic, but we are in pursuit of, and hopefully will soon be.
Okay.
But we spend from basically when the fruit is set in June through the end of the season operating organically. So it's equivalent.
Okay.
And it comes in with no residual pesticide type chemistry on it, because I do everything with native yeast fermentations. Means no yeast is ever added. It's the yeast that's on the skins of the grapes only. And
Okay.
it's super sensitive, so it needs a very clean grape in order to actually ferment. Otherwise they don't go. So this is wine.
Do most people add yeast? I mean, I think of yeast being added to champagne, right?
Yes, I would say the way that you think of beers are made to a certain style, starting
Yes.
with a yeast, wines are made the same way. It's
Okay.
a starting point of defining characteristics of a wine. This is where my focus is what really is Virginia wine, because the yeast and the fruit come right out of the vineyard.
Excellent. All right. Well, you didn't pour me any.
I know.
So how about you pour me a tiny bit? That's perfect.
All right.
Thank you. So what are we pouring?
So this is a grape called Tannat. It's a fascinating grape for the region. It's very consistent if you have the right site for it. It's a little cold sensitive, so it doesn't grow everywhere. But it's a grape that handles our wet, rainy fall seasons, because this vine naturally shuts down its growth during ripening, stops moving water into the berries dehydrate. So even in our wettest seasons, this produces impressive, dense, concentrated, stand-up red wines.
Wow. So is this just the one grape in here?
One grape, single
Wow.
varietal, yeah.
Well, I'm going to save this question for the panel, but I'm going to put it out there because I don't want to forget it. I wonder how hard it is for people who don't have a lot of wine knowledge to understand a wine when they don't recognize the name of the grape.
But you don't want me to answer that now.
No. Yes. Yes. Answer it.
This is the difference between if you're buying wine off of a retail store shelf.
Okay, stop you again. Go ahead.
and
Sorry.
you would
Tell your wife I'm not just touching you, like I'm just getting rid of the mosquito.
If you're helping me look better, she's not.
Okay,
gonna.
okay.
All right, so there's a big difference between retail store shelves. You just have to go with a recommendation from someone in a store.
Right.
That person has to be familiar with what you're doing and believe in it and understand it in order to make that connection with the customer. This is what's awesome about the tasting room focus of Virginia wines is you come, you try it, and you can discover for yourself out of whether you try 5 wines, 10 or more wines, which are the ones that you fall in love with, because at that point the risk is gone. It doesn't matter if you prefer these ones a little more than those ones.
Right.
You discover what you love, and you can make those selections of what you're going to try based on the information and recommendations at the tasting room. So it's an amazing opportunity to discover amazing wine that might be great for that place, but isn't suited to other regions.
Sure.
This is a grape that you really wouldn't want to grow in a place like California, but it matches our temperature regime and handles our moisture regime here, and it's amazing.
It's delicious.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to bring you back. So I got Karim Baki. He is the wine grower and owner of Hillsborough Vineyards. Hillsborough, pardon me. So I thank you for joining me.
Thank you for
I'm
having
going
me
to start,
today.
since it took Jason a long time to pour the wine.
Hey.
I think we're going to start with your wine first. So
Let's do
tell
it.
me what you're pouring.
All right, we are pouring the Hillsborough Vineyards Bloodstone. It's
Ooh.
a name that we gave it. The name of the grape is Fair Cervidou.
Okay.
Fair Cervidou is a lovely red grape originally from southwest France, from the Gaillac region. And it was researched by Virginia Tech over 20 years ago to see what kind of grape varieties do well here.
Interesting.
And they found that Gaillac, southwest France, has a very similar climate to us here. So they looked at a lot of varieties from there, including Tannat, Petit Manseng, Petit Verdot, and Fair Cervidou. It's a lighter style red wine, very supple, low in acid and tannin, so even white wine drinkers really appreciate it.
I was going to say, it has sort of a gamay-ish, like it's light. Do you know what I mean? It's got a
Yes.
really low body,
Yes.
which I very much appreciate, especially on a hot day
It's
if I'm
meant to
drinking
be
red.
a simple sipper. It's not meant to be this big, bold red that you age for a long time. It's meant to be something that you just enjoy after work or on a summer day and have fun with.
All right, tell me about your winery, how you got into the business.
So back in 2001, I was studying at Virginia Tech. I was majored in biochemistry, and I took this wine appreciation course, which led to an internship at Chrysalis Vineyards in Middleburg.
Oh,
I fell in love with wine there. I've always been a science kind of guy. I enjoyed the science aspect, but through working at a winery, I learned about the farming, the winemaking, the social aspect, and so I just fell in love with the whole thing. My father was retiring at the time, so he decided, hey, let's do something together.
oh,
So we
isn't that sweet?
It is fun, yeah. He thought about sailing around the world. I said, Dad, don't do that. Let's build a winery instead.
Oh my God, that's a good dad.
Yeah. And so what did we do? We did our research. We spoke to the consultants at Virginia Tech. We spoke to the county consultant, one of your panelists, Jason Murray, who helped us get established as well. And
When you were using Jason, because this region is, it's fascinating how varied it is very quickly,
Yes.
right? Based on where the mountains are and what the soil allows for,
Yes.
you know, and the kind of sun it gets versus drainage and what, like all the things. I mean, you know way more about it than I do. So when you were bringing in Jason, were you looking at pieces of property and looking for assistance? Or were you like, we want to do here what's going to grow great here?
Yes, we did it the harder way. We say we want to do it here.
Okay.
And we were trying to determine what grows well here.
Gotcha.
Because I believe in natural winemaking, terroir-based winemaking, which means I want to make the wine in the vineyard. So I don't want to force grow a grape variety that isn't suited. I want to make an excellent wine cultivated in the vineyard site itself.
And I think to Jason's point earlier, you want to grow a grape that's going to, you don't want to force a grape that's not going to work. Like
No,
that's
I
a
want to be
waste of time.
sustainable. It's a complete waste of time.
So do you think that, and I guess this is another question for the panel, but I'm going to say it out loud.
Sure.
Do you think that there was maybe Virginia took a while to get its mojo happening in the wine world because people were planting vines that just the science wasn't there? Like they didn't know?
Well,
Or they didn't care?
No, it's any new region tries to copy another successful region.
All right.
But not everything is modular. So at the time, the two most popular grapes around the world has been Cabernet Sauvignon and Chardonnay, very popular in California. So it was perfectly natural for Virginia to try and copy that. But then they learned some of the challenges that were faced with our climate, with our region. And then, so when Virginia Tech came in and said, all right, the state of Virginia actually asked Virginia Tech, we need to start doing research on this, what grape varieties grow well here. That's what I really appreciated my time at Chrysalis Vineyards back in 2001 or 2000, is they planted 22 or 24 different grape varieties more as a research plot.
Oh, interesting.
And then, so from there,
And there is a great book about Chrysalis, by the way, by
yes.
Todd Kleinman.
Yeah.
Right? It came out years ago.
And it's a wonderful way of discovering what grows well here and why. And so we started with trying to create an industry to see if there was a demand from the clientele, which there is now.
Right.
Everybody loves vineyards, everybody loves wine. In Virginia, we have close to 300 wineries. And so it's about making an excellent product that people enjoy and can rely on versus saying, hey, look at our Cabernet, it's competing against California.
Right.
When you look at different wines around the world, they focus on the wine quality that is best for their region. But throughout France, different grape varieties grow in different regions for the climate and soil reasons. Virginia has such a variable climate. You have Northern Virginia, Central Virginia, Shenandoah, close to the coast. And all these places have their different strengths as far as what grape varieties can grow. Tapping into that is the secret. That's the goal. So that takes time.
Yeah.
To come out swinging, being an ace in the hole out of the gate, that's more luck than anything.
Sure.
So it takes research, it takes discovery. So,
But I feel like you leaned into that very early.
Yeah.
Maybe there were others who just wanted what they wanted and then had to pay the price for that.
So we started with the research that was done beforehand. We went with our forerunners and said, what have you found that works well and what doesn't? We consulted with Virginia Tech. We consulted with people like Jason Murray in the county. What have you discovered? Now where can we
I feel
take
like
the
every
next
time
step?
we say Jason Murray, we should all drink.
We should.
Right?
Jason
It should
Murray.
just be like a game at this point, Jason. Tell me quickly, because I'll bring Jason and Jeremy back to the table. Tell me just a little bit about the vineyard and the vibe and what it's like there.
At Hillsborough Vineyards?
Yes,
It's
please.
great. So with this beautiful view, we're about 600 to 700 feet in elevation, gorgeous mountainside location. The vineyard is very happy there. The grapes are very happy there. The tractor driving, meaning me, sometimes gets a little nervous going down the slope. But we established Hillsborough Vineyards in 2001, and we've been making some delicious wine ever since, focusing on these rare varieties like Fair Servitude, Roussanne, Tannat, Petit Verdot, and we have that little bit of Merlot and Cabernet Sauvignon too, just for fun. To see how it works, but it's these more rare varieties that seem to do well.
So you're leaning entirely into red?
Not entirely, but over 70% of our wines are red.
Okay.
Yeah, we make about 12 different wines, and our primary production is red wine production.
Amazing. Okay, well, let's bring the panel together, and we're going to get into it.
Thank you.
Okay, we're back, and I'm so fortunate. So just a reminder who I have with me now. I have Jeremy Ligon, I'm saying his name right now, Jason Murray, and Karim Baki. They are all winemakers and out here in Virginia, because they're not all owners. I got 2 owners, and I got 1 winemaker. 2 have breweries, but we're not talking beer today, although we may talk about the addition of the brewery and why. But I've got a table full of wine, so if you're watching on YouTube, you can see all of this. And if you're just listening to the podcast, it's also amazing. You're going to hear all about the different wines. So guys, what do we have in the glasses to start? Whose wine is first?
I've got my Albarino over in my glass.
Okay, so the Arterra Albarino. Tell us, Jason, a little bit what we're looking for in this wine.
Oh, well, this is that like classic crisp, bright white, so it's stainless steel produced. It's got like a vivid, like zippy, exciting character to it, and still like a real rich, full texture.
And so we were talking about with each of you just sort of the education that is now and research that is now out there for the terroir of the region and what grapes do best. And so is Albarino showing to be one of those grapes that really works in this region?
I really think so. You have to find things that sync with 2 factors. It has to match up with our temperature regime and also our moisture regime. So in terms of temperatures, first you got to have grapes that survive the winter, because we do have pretty cold winters, and then ripen really well in the hot summer. And this one ripens right as we come off of the summer heat, before we get into all that volatile fall weather with all the hurricanes and things. So that's one attribute to it. But we really need grapes in general that also handle warm nights. Most traditional grape growing regions.
I mean, as we're in the middle of a heat wave right now, right?
Yeah. So our temperature regimes are different, our moisture regimes are different, and we need things that either kind of get ahead of that game or can tolerate that game.
Got you. Okay, well, I think it's delicious.
Absolutely. And I mean, just to add it with Jason a little bit, one thing that's nice about Albarino is it sells really well, right? I mean, everybody...
People recognize the name.
They recognize the name. You know, sometimes when you see some of our like hybrid grapes, like our Vidal Blanc and Saval Blanc, people are like, oh, what's that? Well, they know Albarino, and they tend to buy that more, which is nice. And Jason's a beautiful one here. It's got really nice acidity on it.
Well, I just think with the growth, and listen, I'm sitting with 3 experts. I'm just telling you, just over the years, as I've interviewed people and talked to different soms and winemakers from around the world, there is a collective, I think, growth of knowledge now for people when it comes to wine. And, you know, while Virginia wine was dismissed, 30 years ago, so were wines from Texas, and so were wines from Michigan and New York. Like, I think there's a grander understanding now that every state, I think all 50 states have wines, even Alaska?
Yes.
They all have wines. So I think there's a greater understanding that wines are available in every region. And so you're not going to get the Chardonnay that you would from California or from France in Virginia or in Michigan, or, the grapes are going to have to reflect what's there.
I think Virginia is definitely establishing its own identity, just like every region does. And it starts off by trying different things to see what it can do. 40 years ago is pretty much when our commercial industry in Virginia started. And some would say we're probably about 40 years behind where California is today. So imagine where we would be in 40 years from now.
Right, of course.
You're going to see a much different terrain here as far as grape varieties that are growing well. Also with climate change, I'm sure that's going to be playing a huge impact. But the growth of a region, yes, you're right. It is terroir based, but it's also marketing based. Do people like the taste of Albarino? Do people like the taste of Roussanne?
Right.
And those are different things that the industry guides us with, but at the same time, we as growers, we must guide the industry as far as growth.
Well, actually, to that point, I want to try the Roussanne. So I hate to spill this out, but I'm going to because I have to drive.
That's what we do in the wine world. If
Okay.
you gotta try another, you move on.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
So, I think you bring up a good point. I think you can all speak to this. Could we talk about the marketing, right? Because there is a reason that people know Albarino. There is a reason that rosé is so popular right now. I've told this story before, probably on this show multiple times, but when I started in the business a little over 20 years ago, Wines of Provence came to town. They did a media luncheon. They brought in 4 winemakers serving all sorts of rosé. the only pink wine I had known at the time was like White Zinfandel. And I mean, that stuff was sticky and sweet and make you sick, or make me sick. I always call it like the gateway wine. Like a lot of kids start with that wine, or wine coolers. But I really learned a lot about the wines in the process, and they were delicious. And then I'll never forget, like I went to a restaurant a week later and they had a rosé on the menu. It was the first time I had seen it. And I ordered it. And of course I was with a bunch of women and they're like, oh my God, are you ordering White Zinfandel? And I was like, no, it's rosé. And then Food and Wine did a huge thing. And like now rosé is 20 years later. Yeah. I mean, the DC region, I think, drinks more rosé than anybody in the country. That was like data from like 2 or 3 years ago. But that was a marketing campaign. Mm-hmm. It didn't just happen organically. So don't you feel that Virginia, like I think of Virginia wine, don't you think that you guys have to educate the consumer on these grapes?
Absolutely, and that's why it's so valuable to have our tasting rooms, because that's where the education really begins. Very few people have heard of Roussanne. Nobody's heard of Fair Servitude, but when they come into our tasting room and try it, they fall in love with it, and they take that memory home with them. Mm-hmm. That has been the challenge, I think, of any growing industry as far as distribution is concerned. But once you get the customer into your tasting rooms, into your venue, then you can do so many wonderful, meaningful events. And that's what helps attract the next generation, the Gen Zers, the millennials, the people who are interested in getting into wine, who find wine maybe a little intimidating because they don't understand it. Our tasting rooms provide this safe space to educate.
Can we talk about the Roussanne, please?
The Roussanne. If you ever had a floral style white wine, this is what a Roussanne is. Light tropical aromas and flavors, more of a floral white lily or white flower flavor.
But it's got all that like depth and complexity and like intrigue to it at the same time.
And I have to be honest, when I hear floral, I think sweet.
Yeah.
And this is not sweet.
No, and that is part of the education process. When somebody hears fruity, they think of sweet. If somebody hears floral, they think of sweet. There's no sugar in this wine. It is completely dry. That any sweet flavors that you're picking up, it's just either from the flavor or from the body, which is an attribute of the grape.
Well, a lot of times too, it comes from just your brain and how you're trained, because you smell pineapple in this wine, and so your brain goes, oh, I'm going to eat a pineapple. I'm going to eat something sweet. And I always tell our staff, because we make a lot of tropical wine, just say, don't say sweet because it's dry. But when you smell something that smells so fruity, your brain starts telling you you're going to eat something sweet, and then a lot of times you go, oh, it's a little sweet, but actually it's not.
No, but then you're pleasantly...
You start thinking of it.
I don't like sweet wines personally, but there are people who do. But yes, the descriptors are very important, because I like a really dry wine, and I don't mind fruity, but you're right. But when I heard floral, I was like, that could be sweet.
So what helps with this wine is also the acid follow-through. So you have this fruity flavor, this so-called sweet start, and then you have this crisp follow-through, which helps balance out the wine. If this wine didn't have the acidity that it has, then I think when you tasted it, you might be a little put off by this over-sweetness perception.
But it's not like a harsh acid. Like there's no aftertaste. It doesn't have like we were talking about with the New Zealand, that sometimes can have that tang at the very end, like just on the back of the tongue. Yeah. Like I don't feel that at all with this. It's really smooth.
With my wine style, I prefer to have something a little bit more balanced, so it's not overpowered in one direction or the other. So the balance of the body and the sweetness and the flavor. Sorry, the body, the acid, and the flavor.
Right, you get that. That's okay. So let's talk about the grapes of Virginia. So to sort of piggyback, I was also brought on board. There used to be a huge, you probably really remember this, Jason, about Viognier. There was a real push on Viognier, right? And I used to be one of the judges. Every year, I would taste like 40 Viogniers. They were all, talk about cat pee, like all like different shades of yellow and everything. There was a real push for it. And then, I don't know, that just stopped. And I always thought Viognier was the grape of Virginia until I read Todd Kleinman's book about Chrysalis, and the Norton grape apparently is the grape of Virginia. So can we talk about these grapes and why they mean so much to Virginia?
So, like, different things happen in different places. Prim already talked about how diverse the area is, the state. But even within an area, the soils can change one side of a hill to another and what will grow well in different places. So Viognier is a great example of something that at first seemed awesome and made some, like, really great wines that got recognition.
Okay.
Then there's the but.
Yeah, what is the but?
The but is it's super sensitive to moisture content in the soils, and we get a lot of rain here, some years more than others. But it is the type of grape that needs either a super dry site to crop good regularly, or would only set a good crop following an extreme drought year. So we would have so many examples of vineyards that would plant Viognier, and then once it's mature and established in cropping, would put out pathetically low yields year after year after year.
Because of too much water?
Yeah, too much water. They wouldn't actually set fruit. So I got to a point where I was observing more Viognier being pulled out of the ground.
Okay.
Because it wouldn't crop, then was still in the ground, which means it's not a fit. Try something else.
Okay. All right. That is so illuminating. That makes so much sense. And what about the Norton?
Am I talking about Norton? Or you
Who wants to talk about Norton?
Who wants to?
Well, I mean, you obviously have more of a background, but just on Norton in general, I don't know if it's Virginia's grape, but it's definitely native to Virginia.
They call it Virginia's grape, don't they?
Eh,
Okay, never mind. Okay, some people do.
Yeah, some people do for sure.
Richmond.
It came from Virginia, but as far as like, I don't know if it has to represent Virginia all around the world because we make a lot of other really nice wines as well.
Of course.
But it does really well in Virginia because it's native to this area. And especially, when people are putting it on good sites, we're starting to see a lot better Norton. And then,
What does it taste like? Can we discuss like the flavor profile of a Norton grape?
it is, it's very polarizing. It's usually people either love it or hate it. It's got a very distinct flavor. And it's something that you have to make in a totally different way to make it well compared to these like Bordeaux style wines that we have in front of us.
Okay, what are we drinking next? Who's pouring me something else? Wait, I have a red. Have we drank all the
I
reds?
didn't get to try the Sauvignon Blanc from Barrel Oak.
Oh, well, you need to
That's super
try
cool.
that. Yes, absolutely. Will you pour
Okay.
that for Jason, please?
Yeah.
So while he's pouring the Sauvignon Blanc, can we talk a little bit about
thank you.
the business of wine? Thank you. The business of wine, and you're not just growing grapes and putting it in a bottle and selling it. You either have to have memberships, you have people come to your beautiful property. I mean, I'm looking at this property here. I mean, it's no offense, I don't mean it this way, but it is a three-ring circus. It's a gorgeous three-ring circus. You have the gorgeous property, you have gorgeous patios, there's a beautiful tasting room, there's picnic tables, like you guys have music, there's entertainment, like there's so many ways to enjoy the wines and the beer, which we're not talking about today. And what you do out here, like, what is the model of that? And where are you trying to get the wines in people's hand? Do you want them to come into the tasting room so that they become members and buy the wines? Do you want it in restaurants? I know this is a long question, but do you see what I'm saying? Like, there's so many factors.
I think that it depends on the business plan of the individual location. So, for example, most wineries in Virginia are agritourism. What is agritourism? You're an agriculture venue, you're a farm that has a front of the house element. So you do events, wine dinners. You actually have the customers coming to you versus you trying to distribute your wines out to the market. Again, that gives you a huge opportunity of education, and there's a term that we coined many years ago called edutainment, education and entertainment. Because when people learn, they enjoy more. But you have to make it fun. You can't let it be a rigorous class. And when you have wine involved and food involved, how can you not have fun?
No, agreed. And I think the culture exists now. Maybe like 20. Well, first of all, there's 300 wineries, so let's go out to Virginia wine country for the day, pick a region. You can hit 2 or 3 wineries, have a gorgeous day, or just pack a picnic, or go somewhere that's having an event, and you can spend the day there. So, but when you get, I guess my question to simplify it is that when you get into making wines, the thought of the entertainment part, the thought, that's not part of maybe what you all got involved with, your
Right.
winemakers.
I
part.
mean, and I know for us, we want all of that, right? For us at Barrel Oak, we want you to come here, obviously, but we want to be in restaurants and your local stores and available, all around up and down the East Coast at some point. And right now, we're available all around Virginia. But as producers, I don't think any of us got into this because we want to work at a place that does weddings and stuff like that, right? Because that's not what we do. Most of us producers, we want you to hide us away in the cellar and let us make wine.
And along that line, the tasting rooms, there's all different ones. So there's ones that are very focused on the wine, and the wine is the experience. And there's other ones that are just kind of more laid back, fun, free for all. But the one piece of this conversation that should be mentioned, and I
Please.
think it's always overlooked, is the direct to customer shipping. Everyone buys everything online everywhere all the time, but there's a disconnect to the wine industry, and all of us, if you go on our websites, we can send wine straight to you.
So do you think that's because for so long there were like states that wouldn't allow it, or there was a lot of issues for a while with direct wine, but now I don't feel like there is.
No, well, especially when COVID happened and people weren't
Oh, good point.
able to come out to the venue, the Virginia ABC quickly wrote a law that allowed us to do direct deliveries to people's homes. Direct shipping is something that has been allowed within Virginia for quite some time. Shipping out of state is a little bit more complicated, requires more permits, et cetera, more tax money, of course. But the direct to consumer is something that's growing and needs to be constantly refined based on people's spending habits and buying habits.
Sure. And what about memberships?
I think membership is that relationship that we all intend to have an ongoing long-term relationship. So it's an opportunity for us to connect with people that value what we do, and they're watching out for us, so then we're watching out for them. Make sure they get what they want when it comes out. Don't miss out. Just have the most in-depth, deeply connected experience.
It's a wonderful synergy between the producer and the clientele.
Right, because you're sort of giving people, I think the reason why people love memberships is they feel like they have a piece, right? They feel like they know you.
Absolutely.
They have a part of it. Oh, I'm getting this before anybody else. Like there's a
Right.
real specialness involved. So I'd love for everybody, as we sort of wrap up, because there's only so much time, just to talk about your membership programs and how people can get in on
Can
it.
we get Jeremy's petite?
Oh, yes, sorry. Okay, oh my God, Jason, yes. Okay, what do we do? Tell us.
Jeremy, tell us about the Petit Verdot and then answer the membership.
Okay,
This
yes.
is our 21 Petit Verdot, and it's perfect that we're bringing.
Is that what I have?
No.
What do I have?
That one.
That might be the fair still, so here's your
Okay,
petite
oh, you're
Verdot.
right, which I did love, by
This
the way.
is
Thank
perfect
you.
segue into the membership because this is one of the first big reds that I've putting out here since I've been at Barrel Oak, and including the membership. So this would be released to club members only as a pre-release. Starting for about 3 months. That way they get a good look at the wines early. Like I said, we haven't released this wine yet because it still hasn't been quite a year in the bottle, but it's just about getting ready to drink. But that's what's fun about the club membership is you get to taste the wines early. You get the access to the library wines. We bottled wine the last 2 days. We bottled about 2,000 cases of wine.
Wow.
And everybody that helped me were club members. So
very nice.
they get that inside look. They get to
They
come
feel
hang out
part
in
of
the barrel
it.
room. They work hard with us all day, and then we enjoy some wine and food. And that's what's fun about having the club memberships because they really care about what we're doing, and we care about making sure they have a good time.
They get the background experience.
Well,
Absolutely.
they feel like they have skin in the game.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like they
absolutely.
feel like, obviously there's no ownership involved, but they just feel like, well, I know the winemaker and I got to hear this story, and then they share that.
Absolutely.
They feel special. They share it when they're having a dinner party or they bring it as a gift. Like it's just part of, I think it's the best marketing program there is.
Yes,
Do you know what I mean? As a
absolutely.
way to bring people in.
If you think about storytelling, traveling, people like to buy souvenirs and then tell their story about their experiences. Visiting a winery, even though it's only 15 or 30 minutes away, is still a form of travel. It's still a form of experiencing, getting out of your shell, getting out of your home, putting yourself in a different environment, and then you create a story that you can share with other people. That is how this industry grows, and that's the connection that we make with people in the community. So I'm from Loudoun County. That's where my winery is. We have approximately 1 million visitors a year, and 50% of them are Loudoun County residents. So communicating directly with our neighbors is how we make it happen. That's how we get involved in each other's lives and in each other's experience, and we share it.
Well, I mean, I'm just looking behind you right now. I mean, there's a family here. They brought their children. I mean, you know, the parents are having a glass of wine. The kids are playing. I mean, I do that with my family. So I totally appreciate that you're a part of the community.
Yeah.
And yes, from the traveling standpoint, I totally get where your head is at. Now, just tell me quickly about your membership program.
So our membership program, we have, since we also do wine and beer, we have an option to do, it's called the Ruby Club. Ruby is after our flagship wine, the Ruby. Ruby is also my grandmother's name, so it's named after her. So it gives you a wonderful option. You make your own selections, 2 bottles of wine every other month, or a bottle of wine and a 4-pack of beer, and you decide which one you get out of the 12 different wines and 8 different beers that we serve. So we customize it to your preferences and tastes. Now we have one option, which is a shipment of 2 bottles every other month. We have another option that's 6 bottles every other month, depending on how you like it. We have another option, which is just the Case Club. If you just love this type of wine and you want it all the time, then you can just come in anytime and you get a wonderful discount and membership perks like background education and contribution to the production.
And do you do events as well for
Absolutely,
members?
primarily educational events like barrel tastings and vertical tastings. I like to take them into the winery to actually taste out of the barrels and get them to understand and appreciate
People
the birth of
love
wine.
that.
Yeah. And in the vineyard, looking at the grapes and how they grow. Most people I speak to don't realize that grapes are perennial. You know, that they come back every single year. Some people think that we have to plant them every year. Some people have never seen a grape flower before or smelled a grape flower before. And so I love scheduling the events in the vineyard around the vineyard calendar, the growth of the vine, and then the winery calendar, the production of the wine in the barrel. And that has been monumental, a wonderful experience to share with people.
I love that.
And so when you're asking how do you relate production with the clientele,
Yeah,
I get excited about my production by sharing with it.
that's amazing. All right, Jason.
What are we on the club thing?
We're on the club thing still. Wait, okay.
What else?
Oh, are you going to pour another wine? Who's pouring one more? We have one more wine to pour? What are we missing?
Well, we did.
You guys
Would you
didn't
like
check.
the fair?
We can do the fair.
The fair is delicious.
All right.
But did everybody get the
We got
Tanat?
I didn't get the Tanat yet.
You should have some Tanat.
Let's get the Tanat.
Okay, we got the
have 2
Petit.
glasses. We can do a left and a right.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to know how you handle memberships and how that works for you.
Ours is really focused on our release schedule. So we're doing 3 releases per year that are very seasonally appropriate. So in April, thank you, Graham. You're welcome, sir. We do like spring, summer, crisp whites and rosé. And then in the fall, we have some whites and lighter reds. And then in the midwinter, we're doing the like deeper, denser, more concentrated reds. And we are a case per year, like a case club. In general, as an ongoing member, you purchase that case at whatever pace you want to over the year, and you get your discount and your complimentary tastings. We just join into our club by buying a full case at once, mixed case of whichever wines you want. That's the only upfront hit. After that, it's whatever pace you want to do it per calendar year.
Amazing.
But focused on the releases because they are all very small production run wines. So my wines only run from 50 to about 100, 120 cases.
Okay, so you're
per
really
wine.
boutique,
So
right?
we want to make sure people know when the new wines are coming out and they get the ones they love and they don't miss the opportunity. That's us watching out for our club members.
Sure. And so is it a priority for you, and I want to sort of end on all this with you guys, is it a priority for you, Jason, to get Arterra wines in a restaurant, in a grocery store? I mean, what is your model? Where do you want to be?
It is a little bit of everything, but the focus really is the tasting room because the way that I make wines minimalist, they do have nuance of representing the characteristics of each year and its weather patterns. So I want people to try them each year because they kind of move around which ones they fall in love with each year. So it really is that direct experience. And then I love to partner with restaurants or stores that actually value our approach and what Virginia can produce quality-wise, and that our value point is spot on with the rest of the industry. Virginia wines are not overpriced if you match up price
No.
points and wine quality. So I love to work with places that want to share this story with their customers so that we can bypass that barrier of, well, I'm not familiar with that winery or that grape. Whereas whether it's the bartender or the shop person saying, you really gotta try
You got to try
this.
it.
It's
Trust.
that good.
It's the trust.
Yeah,
Right.
and then these are the type of wines, all of our wines, that you get hooked the first time you try them.
I love that. Great. Okay. What about you?
Well, I love that our goal is to establish a community.
Right.
So our purpose is to have the tasting room where you can come out with your family and friends and enjoy yourselves, but also to be a part of the local restaurant scene. It's not our goal at Hillsborough to be in every single restaurant from Maine to Florida. It's our goal to keep small batch production, and for that means we have to keep it local.
Okay.
I like being the local community winery. Getting into DC, getting into Northern Virginia is perfectly, that's our goal. That's what we want to stay in.
Okay. You got bigger plans.
I do, yeah. For us, anybody that comes to this winery, whether it's your first winery you've ever been to, because we're right off 66, we're so easy to get to, or you're a wine expert and a sommelier, I want you to find a wine that you love. So we have some very approachable wines. We also have some very serious wines for your very serious wine drinkers. So no matter what stage you are as a wine drinker, we want you to come here and find something that you love and have a good time. We're pushing to keep producing higher quality wines and elevate what we're doing here. And while doing that, we want to move into distribution. And I would love for my friends in North Carolina to go to the store and say, oh, I got a bottle of your Cab Franc today, and send me a picture. And I think for our model and where we're located, we have the ability to do that and the backing to, if we're selling enough wine, we can go buy another beautiful plot of land in the Shenandoah Valley and grow some really excellent, high quality grapes and keep focusing on that quality and, not outgrow ourselves, because we are always going to be on quality. But, would we love to get the wine up and down the East Coast? Absolutely.
Okay, great. All right. Will you all just tell everybody where they can find you, either online or on Instagram? Just a website?
ArterraWines.com and Instagram, Arterra Wines, Hawkmoth Arts, Facebook too.
Okay, great.
Since I'm the winemaker, I have no idea what our Instagram tag is. But
it'll be in the show notes, so don't worry.
If you Google Hillsborough Vineyards or Hillsborough Winery,
you'll find us.
Vineyards, you'll find us. I apologize. They
don't
keep me in the
apologize.
cellar too much.
Okay.
We're at barrel_oak_winery on IG, and you'll see us all the time putting some fun stuff up there. We've got an oyster roast coming up, so check us out and come out and have some great wines.
That's what's so great about our community, because I'm coming to that.
Right? I love you
That sounds like a
guys.
lot of fun.
All right, well, I'd love to raise a glass to you guys, and thank you. Just a quick cheers.
Thank you,
Thank
Nycci.
you. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to do a quick wrap up. You can sit and sip for a second. So I can't remember which camera I'm looking at. I think I'm looking at that one. Okay, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm at this gorgeous property, Barrel Oak Winery and Brewery out in Delaplane, Virginia, with this amazing panel of guests. Everything you heard here today you can find on the list, areyouonit.com, the online e-zine that tells you everything happening in the DC metro area. Don't forget to tune in to Foodie and the Beast every Sunday at 11 a.m. on 1500. Or, of course, you can download the podcast. And check us out on YouTube. You should totally subscribe if you aren't. Follow me at NYCCINELLIS on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and all the other platforms. There's so much to do all around the DC metro area. You should get into it. Be safe out there and have a delicious week.
Produced by Heartcast Media.